We're going to call the meeting to order, and at this time, we're going to convene into executive session pursuant and to consult with our attorney as authorized by 5510712 of the Texas Government Code, to wit, discuss a resolution of the City Council of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, releasing certain property from the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, pursuant to Chapter 42, Texas Local Government Code, generally located east of Cuban Road between Wallace Road and FM 548. We'll be in executive session.
I haven't been down here yet since.
We're out of executive session. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and put us in recess until 6:30, where we will convene the public meeting. So we are in recess at 6:21. Okay, folks, we're going to be at a recess. We're going to start the meeting at 6:30. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the pledges of the flag. We have a special guest that's going to lead us in our pledges tonight. Vanessa Conley is 7 years old and just graduated to go into the 2nd grade, so I'm going to have her come up with me, and we're going to do the pledges, and this is to start to get kids involved in our politics. Appreciate y'all letting us do that. That was something I really have been wanting to do, is get kids involved and being up here at City Hall and being a part of politics. Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, will you lead us in our invocation, please?
We can bow our heads. Thank you, Lord, for giving us, again, this opportunity to come together and look at the problems and the issues that confront our city every day. Please give us wisdom, guidance, perseverance, and we praise your name in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Dan. So, rules of decorum, we all know we're just going to be kind to one another. We'll be kind to one another and respectful to you. We ask for the same. We'll do that with the members of our staff and the elected officials up here as well. So with that, we'll go on to citizens' comments. Our first is going to be Mindy Lovell. And it is a handheld mic tonight, so you'll have to make sure to turn that on.
Okay. I'm Mindy Lovell with the Rockwall Daughters of the American Revolution, and this is Kimberly Jackson, our new regent, and this is Dee Govea, who is on our America 250 committee. And we wanted to present the city of McLendon-Chisholm with a certificate for your appreciation, for thanking you for the demonstration of extraordinary effort in raising awareness of our revolutionary patriots in America's 250th birthday. And we'd like to present this to Mr. McLendon, our city councilman that helped us to find the location for the tree, and to Mayor McNeil for holding onto the beliefs that we believe in. And we hope that the Patriot Tree will bring a lot of recognition to America's 250th birthday coming up. Thank you.
Mindy, thank you so much for that. We definitely appreciate it. I can speak for Councilmember McLendon and the rest of the council members. That is something we all take to heart, is the patriotism and the love we have for America. So thank you for being a part of our night tonight. Appreciate it. Next up will be Tony Crawford.
As y'all may know, we've had a couple of events occur over the past month. One of them was some water main breaks and some a storm, and then I'm Tony Crawford. I'm 104 Lavender Place, and I'm the president of the HOA at Chisholm Crossing. And then our dam started having problems. So I wanted to take an opportunity to say a couple of thank yous for efforts that were made by our council and the leadership that we had for those few weeks. We drove down 205, and my wife looked over and said, "There's Dan Tucker, there's Brian McNeil, there's Mike Easter, or no, it was Paul Day. I'm sorry, Mike, it wasn't you. Well, it was taller because that's who we could see. So out there getting their feet wet while they were trying to deal with this water main break on 205. And then after we had another water drainage issue from another lot north of us in one of two of our neighbors. And between that and the dam that was having some problems with the soil falling on the front of it, we had the mayor, Jerry Brewer, Mike Easter, Dan Tucker, and Paul Day were all out there, and Jerry Brewer were all out there dealing with that. And I can tell you right now that Brian McNeil and Paul Day spent more time in our neighborhood than they did in their own homes that week. And so we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate the effort you gave us. We're slowly working to a resolution on those things because of that, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Next up is Rich Dean.
About now? I had two things. Now I have three things. First of all, thank you, City Council. I know it's harder to get here at 5:45 for a meeting, but we appreciate the chance that there might not be an executive session tonight that we have to sit through out here. So thank you for that. My first comment is, by the way, Rich Dean, 708 Kensington, McLendon-Chisholm. In Texas. First comment is on item 10.2 of today's council meeting, basically releasing D.R. Horton from the ETJ. And in reading the staff report, I was confused by the not applicable in the staff report on the fiscal impact being essentially not applicable. Does that mean that whether we let them go or out of the ETJ or keep them in the ETJ, there's no fiscal impact to us? I'd like to hear a discussion on that tonight if that is something that's important to you guys. I'd certainly like to understand, is it better for McLendon-Chisholm to have 1,800 acres that we have some say over, or 1,800 acres that we would have no oversight on? Seems that we must have some oversight. I'm not sure what it all is, but for them to ask to get out of the ETJ throws a red flag up for me. So 10.3 is the second one that I wanted to talk about, and it is the amended and restated service contract with Infomark. And here again, the staff report says that they have done a great job. I have to admit, I have not been with the Infomark billing from the beginning, but in my brief tenure as a customer, I've had double billing. At the end of last year, I've had Infomark threatening to shut off my water, and a franchise fee that I get billed every time I send a bill in. I get the extra franchise fee. I still am trying to figure out what I am getting for that franchise fee. If you can maybe illuminate that tonight, that would be great too. Unless there's something there, I would say no to the Infomark and back to direct billing from my trash company.
I believe that is all for citizens' comments. Thank you, Mr. Dean. At this time, we will close citizens' comments at 6:39. At this time, I'm going to read the mayor's update on the storm and all the stuff to hopefully try to give the citizens a little bit of understanding of what took place during that week of the storms, and then with the update on the dam situation. So, indulge me here. People of McLendon-Chisholm, we were all impacted in some way by the recent storms that came not only through the county, but our city. There is no doubt that in many ways the impact was one that had our fire department out handling calls. We had down lines and various other calls. The fire chief, knowing the impact of the storm, kept 2 shifts on call during this transition to make sure that all our citizens were covered. This ended up being a good call. As the chief and I were driving around checking storm damage along with the rest of the McLendon-Chisholm Fire Department, we did have a call come in to assist Heath at a residence fire. Once we were cleared from that call, we were going to make our way back to McLendon-Chisholm, and then we were given another call to assist Royce City in the church fire. Due to the efforts of all the departments that responded, they were actually able to save the adjoining building as well as the food pantry. The commitment by our fire department during this time was beyond reproach, and I would like to thank our firefighters for their efforts during that time. The next day after the storms cleared, council members Day, Easter, Brewer, and Mayor Pro Tem Tucker were out helping in the community, no matter if it was helping with the Encore getting locations narrowed down to helping identify issues of flooding and damage that was impacted in our city. We monitored areas of concern, and it was amazing to see the impact of team working together. This team is truly strong, and I'm honored and humbled to work with each and every one of these men. Many citizens also showed up to help. As a group of men were wielding chainsaws, teamed up with Councilmember Brewer, and many learned it isn't always good to allow me to even control a chainsaw. Thank you to Sarah Naylor for coming out and helping clear down trees and providing lunch to the fire department during this time. And even Aiden Milner, a high school student at Heath, came out and helped as he saw us across the street working. This is what a community coming together looks like. As the storms and rain continued during the week, and we were already spent, one of the citizens altered Councilmember Day's attention and showed him the dam at Chisholm Crossing. After Councilmember Day contacted me, I went to look at the situation, which we decided at that time just to monitor it. A few hours later, we returned to the dam with the fire chief, myself, Councilmember Day, noticed that there had been a change in the elevation in the dam, and the drop was now more than 1 step. It had had a 3-foot break in the ground of the surface dirt. Rockwall County Office of Emergency Management was then sent to our location by the order of the county judge. Once on scene, Rockwall County Office of Emergency Management reached out to the state to request someone to come out and look at the dam. Right then, as we had a forecast showing storms coming for that night and throughout the week. We noted the concerns of the homes at the bottom of the dam. However, we were told they would not be able to come until the next day. During this time, we were trying to decide how to let residents know we were monitoring the situation and taking it seriously. And the only way we could get the word out is to send an alert so that those could be impacted would have some sort of heads up in the event that we would have ever had to initiate evacuations. The intent was to make sure we let the public know we were monitoring the situation, and only if we felt an immediate threat would we issue such an order. At this point, we went to go check some other areas that fed water into the reservoir. And while at that scene, 911 dispatched us to a house fire. So myself and the Rockwall County Office of Emergency Management were only 1 street away, and we responded with the fire department right behind us. Once we cleared that scene with the fire department and Encore, the alert was sent out to the public. We then decided we would monitor the site until 3 a.m. I promise I'm almost done. Once we saw the storms were going to miss us, we went back to our homes. At 6 a.m., we went back to the scene, and as the rest of you saw, it unfolded on TV as well as in my updates online. I will say again, council members Day, Brewer, and Easter, and Mayor Pro Tem Tucker were in and out through the days to come and the various times they were out walking the dam, checking areas and making sure to give updates as to status. Council members Day and Tucker, Mayor Pro Tem, even attended the meeting with the Soil Water Conservation District and were on site with me, as well as the other council with USDA, TCEQ, and Soil Water Conservation District, as they did inspections and formed the reports. Due to the diligence of these council members, we were able to have direct contact with the county and have letters already sent to the USDA on this particular dam. The report is also going to be coming out on the 17th from the TCEQ. And I also want to say the citizens helped set up a lot of these meetings Senator Hall's office and Congressman Fallon's office is also looking to come out and tour the dam. In closing, your fire department, city staff, and council were involved in the community during this time and worked tirelessly to make sure everyone was taken care of. Staff was already contacting CWD on how to address the vault pickup, and your council voted to assist the citizens unanimously to bear the cost so that you would be taken care of. I also want to thank the linemen and various teams I was able to work closely with from Encore. The communication that they gave me so that I could put out as much as possible to you was valuable in making sure you always knew what was going on. I want to personally thank my contact, Christy Tyra at Encore, for making sure our citizens had information up to date. She even put in work orders at locations that I would send her. Council members helped in pinging locations that had down lines, and our very own Judge Russo was on scene to help as well. And we apologize to him for his muddy shoes that day. We truly showed that division is not active in McLendon-Chisholm as we bonded together to help one another. I was even able to contact resident HOA individuals who could post things on their HOA pages, such as Gina Manis, Tony Crawford, and a few others. It was great to see this happen because it helped Encore get to different locations. We were even able to help Encore get to ETJ residents. So thank you everyone for your patience, your help, and your understanding. The citizens that brought us water and even the breakfast sandwiches from Lorna Kippett were just simply amazing. This is McLendon-Chisholm, and this is Unified. Thank you. I promise I will not do speeches every week, or every other week rather. This will take us to consent agenda. Oh, thank you, sir. We're going to go back to 2.3. It was an item that we had in executive session where we were going to discuss a resolution changing the time of city council meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday from 6:30 to 5:45 p.m. So I'll turn that over to the council, as I would like to see us start this at 5:45. This is a benefit for the citizens, I believe. If we start the meeting at 5:45, we will always convene at 6:30 in front of the public. You're welcome to come up here at 5:45 when the meeting begins, but my goal is to be in executive session from 5:45 to 6:15, and we'll be in front of the public to talk at 6:30, and we will remain there because that is your time. When we're here, we need to be here for y'all. I say it all the time, this isn't my seat, it's your seat. I just get to be the voice you get to hear. So with that, I'll turn it over to council with any questions or concerns.
No concerns on my part. I think it's very appropriate to have this meeting prior to us being in front of the citizens. Certainly, as you've already said, the fact that they've been patient waiting through several hours of executive sessions in the middle of a meeting and having to wait for us to come out. I wouldn't tolerate that, and I don't think they need to tolerate. So I'm all in favor of this early session meeting. Yep.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. It's something that I'm used to seeing in my past career. City of Rockwall does it. Most cities have their executive sessions ahead of time to open up the time for everybody else after that. So I'm for it.
Councilmember McLendon and Councilmember Easter.
Yeah, I think this is good for the citizens, and I think it'll help us move things along. The concern I've got is if it's going to prevent any of us from getting here to offer input on the executive sessions. And so folks from coming from out of town, from Dallas, I think that's going to be a concern, but I think we can work around that in some way. But I think overall, I think it's a good idea.
I definitely agree with that concern. I think that was one of the questions we did ask, and from what I understand, since no action is taken in the executive session, we can get those members that may not be here at 5:45 on the phone, so they'll actually be a part of the executive session meeting since no action is taken. But by moving the time, it takes us from a special meeting down to our regular council meeting. If it's a special meeting, then I have to have 4 council members here to have a super quorum for us to go to the back. Whereas if we change the time to 5:45, I only need the 3 council members, and then we can call the meeting to order. We can get to business going. And so we do understand that there are members, we understand Councilmember McLendon does have a little bit further of a drive, and anyone who understands the bridge at coming into Rockwall, you might get lucky, but most likely not. And so we would definitely want to accommodate him to be able to hear what's going on, and we would put him on speakerphone. So hopefully that would address that concern. But if there's no other concerns or questions, then I would look for a motion on this one.
I'd make a motion to accept the resolution changing the time of city council meetings
Oh,
on second and fourth Tuesday from 6:30 to 5:45.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Show that unanimous. Okay, now we will move to consent agenda. If there are any items that the council sees they would like to pull off to have a discussion on, we can make note of that. If not, I'll look for a motion to pass consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second. Oh, okay.
We're going to let Brewer have that second. Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Show that unanimous as well. We are moving right along. Okay, the next item up is 10.1, consideration and action on the request of Ryan Webb, Greenbrier Homes for property generally located east of the intersection of State Highway 205 and League Road for approval of zoning district change from the SF district to a planned development district for the development of 8 single-family lots, each with a lot size of 2 1/2 acres of land, and consideration of an ordinance approving the request. I'll turn this over to our city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. You've had this request in front of you. It's for, as you mentioned, an approval of a zoning district change from the SF 2.5 residential zoning district into GB2 general business zoning district to a planned development district for the development of 8 single-family lots. It's been discussed by you before, and we're here for your final approval.
Council, Mr. Webb is here. If y'all have any questions, he may have already probably covered every question that we could have. But if there are any other questions, he is here to answer them. If not, we'll open up a motion on this one as well.
Mayor, I make a motion for consideration and action on the request of Ryan Webb, Greenbrier Homes for property generally located east of intersection of State Highway 205 and League Road for approval of a zoning district change from the SF 2.5 residential zoning district and a GB general business zoning district to a planned development district for the development of 8 single-family lots, each with a lot size of 2 1/2 acres of land in consideration of an ordinance approving the request.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McLendon. Is there any discussion on this item? There's no discussion. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
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 And show that passed unanimous. I told you Mr. Webb wouldn't be long. We will move on to item 10.2, Discuss and consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, releasing certain property from the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, pursuant to Chapter 42, Texas Local Government Code. I'll turn that one back over to our City Administrator, Conrad.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request from DMDS Land Company LLC. Previously, as you know, the city entered into a development agreement with them based on certain provisions that didn't arise, didn't get approved between us and the county. In that agreement, they we agreed to release them from the ETJ, which in the past, you've put them into the ETJ in the past 6 months separately. But since that action didn't happen, they are requesting to be released from there. It was asked, and it's good time to ask about the fiscal impact, as one of our citizens was concerned, and potentially the council. The fiscal impact is listed as NA. Obviously, with the development agreement, if we continue with the development agreement, the city had at least some say, and as well as some ability to do building inspections and oversee the overall development. It is in the ETJ, meaning it's not in our city. And we couldn't do everything, but through that development agreement, there are a variety of different things that the city could have included up to and including received revenue for. But since that provision that I discussed earlier, that about with the county didn't come to fruition, they're asking to be removed from the ETJ right now. And we have Mr. Josh Bedke, the attorney representing this organization, here tonight. If you have any questions, you also may see that the 1,867.594 acres in your documents that you received was 1,877. Initially, it was 67 instead of 77. There was 2 5-acre parcels, and you may ask Josh what they're for. But what I understand, it was 2 owners had 5 acres each, and it was just forgotten to put on to this, and then they caught the error and asked to be put back on. So the resolution that you have in front of you includes those extra 10 acres of land, which constitute what you had previously put into the ETJs. So with that, turn it back over to the Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Conrad. I know Josh is here, so thanks for being here. He is with the D.R. Horton, so I promise you, folks, this is being addressed on the feedback. We already have had somebody out. There were some updates needed to be done. We thought we kind of had it fixed, but it is being fixed. It'll be the last thing I do that will be fixed. So if Josh, if you want to come up, this council probably might have some questions for you. I know I have a couple of follow-up questions after they do with this release from the ETJ. So I'll turn it over to council. We'll start down the line. Mr. Tucker, do you have anything?
Not at this point.
Mr. Brewer, do you have anything?
You really don't have to give us an answer, I suppose, but what's the intention with the land after it's removed from our ETJ?
Yeah, so the intention now would just be to go through the county, still develop the property kind of under the same expectations. To clarify that, I just want to make one clarification. I'm not with D.R. Horton. I'm with the law firm Coates Rose. I represent the municipal utility district, so I'm not here in any capacity on behalf of D.R. Horton or anything like that. But yeah, no worries. I know I'm here with those guys a lot of times, but but so I can't speak for exactly what their plans are for development, but everything that we were contemplating under the terms of the development agreement as far as how many products they were expecting out there and all of that should still be the same. It's just that now we're going to have to go through the jurisdictional path of going through the county once we're out of the ETJ.
Councilmember McLean, do you have anything, sir? Councilmember Easter.
Well, depending on how things go with the county, there may be some opportunities here to come back and see how things work out. I don't think it's a unamicable dissolution over here. We're hoping that we can find some ways to work together on all of this in the near term.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I would say likewise. So far, it's been good working with the city. Really, we're just looking to be in accordance with the terms of the agreement that we came to with you guys, and pursuant to that, it was kind of a material term to that contract that you guys would end up amending that ETJ agreement. That didn't happen. Therefore, you guys had agreed to let us get out and try our way with the county. It's very possible that we come back and say, hey, let's try to strike another deal, and we'll go from there at that time. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close. One, I'm not anti-development. I know I get that on me a lot. What I am is just pro-smart development, right? And it's just something that, as far as development goes, I've always had a concern on that particular development back there, because I just know the impact it can have not only on the city of McLendon-Chisholm, although it is in the ETJ, it affects us as a city, it affects our neighbors. You know, we have a strategic plan 2050 where, you know, it's very unique that you have 7 cities come together to protect a 13 by 13 square. And when we all work together to do that, it just allows our communities to evolve together. So with that said, I'm confident that if you find doors not being as opened at the county, and you do come back, we are open to talk. We're just open to smart development talk, right? And I would feel confident that if we could come up with an agreement between 2 parties that we could probably pass and annihilate with the county, I would feel very confident in saying that. So with that, we'll wish you luck at the county, and I'll turn this over to the council to take a vote on this one. And thanks again for coming out. You've been out here quite a bit. If no one's going to make a motion, how is that?
I make a motion to consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, releasing certain property from the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, pursuant to Chapter 42, Texas Local Government Code. City Administrator.
I'll second.
Motion and
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Tucker. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to make a comment, and I've been thinking about this one because you've had considerable pushback, whether it was from us initially or particularly from county. I think county's pushback even stronger, and that's why you came over to McLendon-Chisholm at one point in time. And just to tell folks where I stand is I'm a big advocate of property rights. Property rights starts at my 1 acre that I live on, or can extend itself to maybe 15 or 20 acres where individuals want to, develop their property. Mr. Webb has been through the process of trying to develop his, I think, 20 acres. And so I'm not a real proponent of MUDs and the high density that comes along with them and all the other difficulties we encounter. But I certainly am an advocate of property rights that you all are entitled to under law. And so I think there was going to be some initial pushback on this in terms of letting you go. I could never come up with a good motivation to fight or go against that, simply because you have the right under Texas law to go in the direction you want to go. And from what I'm seeing with council, I think they're probably agreeing with that stance. So I do hope that, well, I think that you may get greater pushback again from county. I know that they have a little bit more heavier funding to push back with, and that's always a consideration for a small city in making our decisions. And like the rest of the council, I'd like to suggest that if you do come back, then I think we're willing to negotiate in good faith with you guys. So, yes, sir.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Brewer, do you have anything else to add? Councilmember McLendon, sir? And Councilmember Easter? All right, well, then I'll call it to a vote here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Show that unanimous. Thanks, Josh. Sure, we'll see you again soon. Okay, moving right along, that will take us to 10.3, discuss and consider approving the Infomark amended and restated service contract for the provision of sanitary sewer, solid waste, and recycling services. And we'll throw this one back to Conrad.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. You have before you an amended and restated services contract from Infomark to include solid waste and recycling citywide. As you know, starting in about 2014, the city joined forces with Infomark, providing sanitary sewer and all wastewater operations and maintenance. And the city became a retail sanitary sewer provider back then with the partnership of Infomark. So everyone that receives sanitary sewer was all the utility billing as well as all the operation and maintenance of that system. We contracted out with Infomark. The council recently was thinking that it would be a huge benefit to the residents if they could combine everything excuse me, into one bill for our residents, and the benefit of that, having water, sewer, and garbage in the same bill. We are not discussing water at all tonight, and this is not part of the process, but we this is for wastewater, or excuse me, for trash and recycling and those services, solid waste services. Furthering in the process, as the council decided to continue the contract with CWD at the end of their 5-year contract, had a provision in there to continue for an additional 5 years. And this has been a little while because we had to let them know 6 months prior, so from the December backwards. So it's been about a year ago that the council decided to continue services with CWD for an additional 5-year service project. One of the things that CWD requested was to get out of the utility billing business, and the city granted them that ability. We contacted Infomark, and they've been excellent to work with to try to get to take over that citywide utility billing services. That seems simpler than than you may think, and we kind of had a rocky start based on CWD billing before the services were rendered, and Infomark billing in arrears. And so we ran into a problem, and there was some confusion. I think we're getting better and better as the days go on, and I know that Infomark will provide excellent service to the city, and has for the last decade plus in there for the city, and as I mentioned, in their sanitary sewer. So to do that, to take on that service of doing our solid waste and recycling, which they have since January of this year, we haven't amended the contract to include that. So most of the contract is exactly status quo, if not all of it, except for Exhibit B, where it states the cost per household to provide the solid waste and recycling in the process. So they are now with the city, jointly with the city, working jointly with CWD as well as the city in providing all those utility billing at all services to our residents. And this contract, this amended and restated contract is to include that solid waste and recycling portion of the contract that they've had for the last decade with us. So we have two representatives. We have Ms. Ariel Britt here, as well as Mr. Cameron Robinson in the back, that are willing to answer any questions that you may have. Specific questions, they're very knowledgeable in this area that obviously they work in, and very, very good to work with. So with that, Mayor, that's what staff's looking for, is just an approval to amend and restate this service contract with Infomark.
Okay, council, do y'all have any input on this? We do have some of the representatives from Infomark here. If y'all want to ask them any questions on this.
I have a question. And I think maybe our city administrator has covered this with you, but I'd just like to make it public, really. I had a citizen call me the other day, and let me preempt this by saying that there's a contract that exists between RCH and Infomark when it comes to sewer, and that if sewer isn't paid by a customer, then Infomark will give notice to RCH, or to the customer, that RCH will cut their water off. Okay? Am I stating that correctly?
The agreement is between the city and RCH. And then it's our contract is listed on the process for us to follow.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But suffice it to say that Infomark will notify the customer that their water will be cut off if they don't pay their sewer. So that,
Correct.
right. So that's a preemption to the notice that I got from, again, from a citizen, where Infomark, and I think this has been more than one individual. If I've had my ear to the ground on this, and I believe it has been more than one individual and keeps kind of cropping up, is Infomark came in, and Infomark is their trash collector. So, and they're billing for trash, but they threatened to turn off the water for this individual because their trash wasn't paid. Now, it wasn't framed like that with Infomark. It had no mention of trash in there. It was pertinent to just water, because they hadn't paid. The inference was that they hadn't paid their water bill. And so there's confusion there. I want to see that there's changes being made in that, and maybe you can just testify to what I'm trying to explain here and make it a little clearer too.
Yes. So that delinquent letter has been the same since 2014. So we're currently updating it. We did update it to just state services, but we've been requested by the city to make sure that says sewer, solid waste, and recycling. And we're also meeting with CWD to clarify their delinquency process they can follow. So we'll know the delinquency process hopefully in the next week or two. Okay. And we'll also have that language updated and available to review before the next round of delinquency letters go out. But we will make sure that's updated going forward.
And maybe we can put something on the city website explaining this out so folks have an understanding. It's interesting because I think the person was on Blackland Water, I believe it was Blackland Water, and they had septic. So they were wondering, they were in a quandary as to why they were. Obviously, they're septic in their backyard, so it's just.
Councilmember Tucker and members of the council, we are actively working with Infomark and CWD, as Cameron mentioned, to update all that. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. However, you also need to know that you have some great, very conscientious residents here that very, very few don't pay their bills. The only ones that are going to get a notice are those that are not paying their bills. So it's very, very few, but very, very important that it states exactly what we're looking at and why they're getting the bills. So that's important. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But and we're actively trying to get that finalized.
And we had the conversation, but again, I wanted to edify this for the public because there are people out there who've gotten this, and I just needed an explanation behind it besides, your explanation to me, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Councilmember Brewer, do you have anything?
I have a couple questions. I'll probably go back and forth between you and Conrad. What's the overall value of this add-on, this amended contract? What is the value of it?
I believe what you're asking me is the $3 is the cost that Infomark is charging to provide this service is $3.75 per household, equivalent to what they're charging for sewer on that, same thing.
So that's what? How many households we have? 2,600 households?
The exact number is 1786 now. We were doing just 711 accounts, and then when we added on sewer, now it's 1786. And so what we outlined was we kept the $3.75 rate for billing for sewer and trash customers, and then we added in language to specify trash only at $3.75. And then the other portion is updating our rates from the last time our amendment was 2016. So our rates for anything that's a la carte, say there's emergency or we're called out for an operator or a crane truck, those rates are also being updated to our 2024 rates from 2016. The next part is in our third-party billing process, our HR department. In the original contract, we had that amount listed inside of our rates. Once you added on 1,000 more connections, that's gone up dramatically. And it's to keep from us paying that amount and then billing the city additional 15% for that, we've removed it where the city can pay that directly. So there's no markup on there. There's complete transparency that you pay exactly whatever you use for those bills going out to each account for delinquency notices and all of that through that third party. That invoice will go directly to the city and it'll be a direct pay. And the other inclusion is a management and compliance fee. That's a new fee for us to assist with CWD, send them monthly reports, have regular meetings with them on the back end because it's been a lot more back end going forward with them. And so those are the additions to the contract.
So the $3.75 per household is the fee that's charged for trash, correct?
Correct.
And that includes the billing and collection services?
Yes, and customer service, yes. It'll take care of the billing, the payment processing, and customer service.
Okay. Because I guess I was a little confused because in your other services, it says billing and collection services at cost. It doesn't list the cost. At cost, no markup.
That's the AR part that I was talking about. So our third-party AVR is our third-party billing system. And to mail out the notices, to send out the water bills, in the past it was worked out where we would pay that, and that's billed back to the district at 15% markup. This contract, since it's such an increase, 1,000 more connections, we've removed that to avoid that 15% markup. The city just pays it directly going forward.
Okay. And I want to make sure I understand this. There's a management fee, or because you're having to deal with CWD? Or?
For the back end to make sure that they have their connection counts, their AR department dealing with our AR department. Also, once we work out the delinquency process for those who do not pay their bills, as well as managing that, and it's just a lot more communication that's happening on the back end between management and their management.
Okay. Okay. I guess my bigger question that I've had, and you won't be, I'm not sure if you can answer this, it's more of a philosophy of where CWD doesn't want to be involved in the billing anymore, and I guess I can accept that. But we're having to hire a company, Infomart, to do the billing for CWD. And from what I've read in the past, the savings for CWD, I think I saw in an email, was $1.50 per trash can in front of their house. So that's $3. Usually most people have 2 cans, recycling and a regular. And now we're being charged $3.75 per connection per month. So it seems to me we're losing money on this deal. It's not at least an even trade. I'm not sure, I think the amount of money that we're talking about is probably not huge. If we're talking 1,700 households, it's a lot, but it's not over the top. But I kind of wonder, and maybe council has a better perspective on this, whether we should bid this out first.
Councilmember Brewer, let me also tell you that the base fee includes a recycling can and a solid waste can. So it's not $1.50 each. When CWD asked the city to take over the utility billing process, and thus we asked Infomart, since they were already in the business with the city and already had 900 plus units with sanitary sewer, so that would be real easy transition there. They said if you take it over, we can reduce the cost of that initial fee by $1.50. And so that's where that came from. So it's not $3, it's $1.50.
Okay. The way I read it, it said $1.50 per can. I'm sorry? Oh.
Going up compared to before Infomart did it. I know I'm out of order, but from what I understand, this Infomart thing, they've been billing us without the council saying you can do it. So they've been doing it without really any vote by the city council. That's at least this is saying.
Tom, you gotta let us have this one, sir. Well, I know you're good. You know I love you, sir. So I'll try to answer that a little bit. So I did have a conversation with Jason over at CWD, and I asked him all these questions that you're asking right now. You know, seems like the consumer or the customer for you guys is the price has gone up on their bill. And he explained to me that there were some pass-through issues that were still getting caught up. But he explained to me that there's a yes and a no in this. Yes, they have no issue with the city taking over the billing, but they also had no issue in keeping the billing if it would have stayed that way. It's easier for them to push it out because they would rather not manage that, because as far as their contract went with CWD and the city at the time before Infomart came into play, and correct me if I'm wrong, Conrad, it has something, so there's pass-through, right? So there was always a franchise fee in the billing, and what would happen is there's a pass-through. So the fee is higher from CWD when they had control, and then the city would get a pass-through fee back to us on the franchise fee side, correct? Okay. Once CWD passed this off to Infomart, or the city rather, and then we gave it to Infomart, then that fee, in essence, went down because it went away, correct? Correct.
Instead of being included in the overall bill, it got pulled out to show more transparency. So the city was showing the residents more transparency, showing what that franchise fee is too. And every single utility in our city, except for our water, pays a franchise fee. Every single utility in probably every city in the state of Texas pays a franchise fee. There's also some things that some residents have had a problem with. They used to have the clean and green extravaganza, some type of event, and they were billed separately. Now they're not being billed separately. It's all part of their base fee. Every year, and it's built into the contract, they look at the cost of the tipping fees, the cost of the CPI in the area, and the cost of the gas, and raise the rates. That didn't happen this year. The residents were less. So a lot of things that weren't communicated that way to assist in a transition that we knew potentially could be a little difficult, that didn't happen. So it's very visible because we meant to have it visible to show the transparency of the franchise fee, but we didn't on the backside show the things that weren't extra anymore that were put into the main cost. So every year that's going to happen for our residents and per our contract that we agreed to with them.
I will get back to you, Councilmember Brewer. I agree there was some little difficulty. I probably say a lot of difficulty. A lot of the constituents, right, as you heard Tom speaking on, their bills have gone up. So how do we as a city explain to the constituents, granted they're your customer, but how do we explain to them we were trying to do a service to bring their bill down, but it's gone up? That's the mystery I can't even explain, and I haven't been able to explain for quite some time now. And I think that's due to the people like Tom and the other people. I can't explain it because when I did the math, and I could have done the math wrong because I am not a mathematician. I'm also not a great speaker, believe it or not. But when I did the math, I came out to we were probably paying a few extra months more of trash service than we're paying now. So I got 12 months in a year, but I'm paying about 15 to 16 months worth of trash service. So that's, as a customer, I have a problem with that because I had this service that was fine. We give it to the city passes it off to Infomark, which I understand the reasoning why, because they already had a customer base. Now all of a sudden it's haywire. You're not in the city to get the trash bill, so you don't understand what the people are saying. And in this instance, I'm one of the people as well as the other people on the dais. It's just want to be able to explain that to myself even.
No, Mayor, that as a staff, we're more than willing to show that analysis of what went on, put it on the website so every resident of the city can see, and show the added months. The cost of $375 is a little bit more than what the city was paying CWD. Obviously, they gave us $150 versus the $375, so it's a little bit more. But we can do that. We'll set up a thing. We'll do the analysis. We'll show it very clearly, and we'll go back. We could use we'll go back and pull an unnamed resident and show what they were paying before the transition and then what they're paying now. And I think you'll be very surprised of how close, if not, right on, of what's being charged now from then. So if you're willing, if that's okay, we will do that as staff and get that advertised to be more transparent that way too.
Yeah, we definitely, my whole campaign was transparency. And I believe that the people have to know. it's an unfair advantage when the people don't know what's going on in the government that they put us here to serve, right? So I feel like we just got to make sure we're giving them that. I would like to see that. My worry is you have this on the agenda tonight to ask for a vote, right? And so if we do that, you see what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden we see this example and everyone's like, ooh, that's not the best example I wanted to see, but we passed something. It will be up to the council eventually here soon, and we'll probably need to call that to account soon, but, and I still have a couple other council members that I'm sure are going to have input, and it looks like Mayor Pro Tem has a little bit more, so let me let Councilmember Brewer finish some of his thoughts. Oh, you're done. Then I'll kick it back to Mayor Pro Tem, and then we'll go back down the line.
No, I was just thinking, the statement was made that, CWD was unopposed to them continuing in term, providing a billing. I believe I heard that. And if that's the case, why do we have to go to Infomark? I understand they would prefer not to, but we signed a 5-year contract with them, and that was part of the 5-year contract. And we're trying to keep our rates low. And the differential between $3.75 and $1.50 is $2.25. And so we are effectively paying more, customers paying more, if my math is right. I'm not a mathematician as well, but so I think we need to put a kibosh on this for a moment and maybe revisit this, look at the true numbers so we can make a wise decision. Because it seems like, I think if we approve this tonight, it'll be to our disadvantage, to the citizens' disadvantage.
And just let me throw in, this agreement is not necessarily about the cost of the trash. It's about who's providing the service of this. And I have no idea what the discussion with the mayor and Jason Romer, but I do know that in the CWD contract, they asked and were approved by the council to have the city take over the servicing of the water. So he could say now, I have no doubt that the discussion of the mayor was 100% correct. But
I'd like the opportunity to go back to that contract and look at that contract at this point and,
sure.
and make sure that that's exactly what was said. Yep.
No.
Councilmember McLendon, do you have anything on this? Nope. Okay, and Councilmember Easter, do you have anything, sir?
Yeah, just one quick clarification. I think one of the citizens was asking what the franchise fee was for, and I think it was briefly brought up by Conrad, but if you can explain it a little bit more so everyone kind of knows what these franchise fees are.
Sure, the franchise fees are the use of the public right-of-way. So and all the utilities that run through the city, the right to go on our streets, to go under the ground, to do everything they do in the city, there's a charge for that. Because there's a cost to the city of ongoing costs. And so that's charged to Encore, Admis, Blackland, High Point, every utility provider has that franchise fee. And that's not uncommon. And maybe being transparent was something that other cities may not do. But that's, I would think you go to any city anywhere and you're going to see that exact same thing happening, because there is a cost to have outside for-profit businesses in our city doing services. So.
And that money flows back to the city that subsequently reinvests it to address the cost on the infrastructure of, okay.
Well, we were getting the pass-through back from CWD. We were getting a franchise fee paid back to us before we ever did a switch. So we were already getting something back. So it was kind of like, I'm only 52, but I still know the saying, if it ain't broke, or don't reinvent a wheel. But I don't know. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Tucker. Eventually it's going to go to the council here in a few seconds for what they want to decide to do with this. But and definitely appreciate you being put on the spot here tonight, but I think we owe some due diligence to the people before we do anything, but I will push this to a vote if there's no other discussion. I appreciate your time unless anybody has any more questions. No, I appreciate you. If you have anything you want to add to this?
Yes, and again, we support the city in whichever direction you want to go. We were requested to just add this on, so we added the contract amendment to address that cost of $375 because that's what our third party bills for us to do everything. So whatever direction you go, we're fine with it. We support you in any way, and we'll assist however we can.
I'd like to just make one last statement, and that is they were asked by the city, and I appreciate you guys coming on board and helping out with this, but there was no bid. There was no bid on this. This is a single party, and again, I do appreciate what you guys do for us. I've seen you in action in the past, and I can applaud what you've done in the past, but I might consider putting this out for a bid to see if we can draw down on that overall cost. If we can, I think it's that being our due diligence as part of, and then beyond that, we have a responsibility for the folks to keep our costs down for them as well as the city itself. So, having bids being received on this, I'm all for.
Okay, with that, I will take it to a motion. If anyone would like to make a motion on item 10.3. With no motion, Hala, can you explain to us one more time when there's no motion made, how that ends, that there's nothing? Okay, so with no motion, there will be no action taken on item 10.3. We will go to 10.4. With that being said, folks, what that's going to do is Mayor Pro Tem Tucker is going to want to see this contract from CWD and then from Mark, and I'm sure he'll come back to myself and the rest of council and let us know, and then we'll push this back to staff to refigure some things out so that we can do right by the people on this one, okay? So 10.4, consideration and action on the request of approval of a preliminary plat that provides for the development of one commercial lot, which at build-out will be an O'Reilly's Auto Parts store totaling approximately 7,480 square feet in size. This development is located south of the intersection of State Highway 205 and FM 550, immediately adjacent to Brookshire's grocery property. I will turn this over to Conrad, but before I do, I truly just wanted to go O'Reilly's. Sorry, go back to you, Conrad.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is as following city process of approval of development. This commercial development is following that. It's for the approval of the preliminary plat. And I'll turn it over to our planning director to give you any additional information on how it's been going through the process and how it came to you tonight.
Thank you, Conrad. Mayor, members of the council. So the request is for the approval of a preliminary plat that provides for the development of one commercial lot, which the build-out will be an O'Reilly store totaling approximately 7,480 square feet. And it's located south of the intersection of 205 and 550, immediately adjacent to the Brookshire's property. The staff recommendation is approval subject to the following conditions. Just furnishment of a water service plan from the applicable retail service provider. So it is in High Point, SUDs, CCN. However, RCH will be providing the water. This afternoon, I did receive correspondence from RCH for a will serve letter. They're in coordination with High Point, and we're just waiting on the actual furnishment of the letter. But the two agencies have been in coordination, and RCH has no issue providing water. And from what I'm understanding, High Point has no problem releasing that so that RCH can provide the water. That concludes my staff.
So a will serve letter, we've had these in the past, and they've been problematic because they've been withdrawn. based on the actual ability to provide service. So this goes above and beyond a will serve letter. And so are you saying that you're going to accept a will serve letter where they're really asking for a water service plan? Is a water service plan in action? Is it being provided?
No, the water service plan will be provided. The water service plan will be provided. They're providing the will.
And that comes in with the final plat?
Yes, sir. So right now, for the preliminary plat, we have the will serve letter, and the water service plan will be with the final plat.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Brewer, do you have anything on this one? Councilmember McLendon? Councilmember Easter?
Yeah, this is maybe a little bit far along, but what's the timing for actual construction of this building?
So they want to get moving pretty fast. It is mid-June, and so we're thinking maybe in the next 6 to 9 months going vertical. So they're trying to move very fast, and we're trying to move them along. So we're working as diligently as possible. So yeah.
And is this going to affect any of the other development in and around that area? Like the Berkshires that's going in on that corner over there, is that going to be an issue with it?
No, this should not cause an issue with any of kind of the other tenants that are around or thinking about building that on property, no. Thank you.
Just a quick question on the water service plan itself. I've been exposed to one or two, but haven't really gone to depth in terms of the understanding. Are those plans TCEQ provided, or are there standards under TCEQ for those particular plans? How are they devised? How are they modeled? How are they set up?
So TCEQ does have some kind of general standards for water service plans, but however, I have seen several water service plans. So I think it allows us kind of some flexibility to kind of require what we might want to require from developers. TCEQ does have guidelines, but as far as us as a city, we don't have a standard water service plan that we ask for.
And I'm thinking that because it employs engineering, that there's got to be some fundamental standard that's provided, and so we would want to make sure that meets those particular standards.
Correct, and we would want to make sure that every water service plan is the same as well.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, I will look to hear a motion on item 10.4.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat that provides the development of one commercial lot with a build of O'Reilly's Auto Parts on the 205 and 550. Am I right?
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Any further discussion? If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And show that unanimous. Moving right along, folks. 10.5, presentation, discussion, and action on roadway impact fees process. Back to Conrad.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of council. If you know, in your package, you have another copy of the plan again that was given you back in March at our last city council meeting, where we had a public hearing. It was mentioned that it wasn't included in the packet. We have included it in the packet, even updated it in the packet. And so you have that, as well as the slides for the presentation, which you've already received in the past. So this item was just, it was requested by the city council to come back to answer any questions about this this overall roadway impact fee. You will be finalizing the roadway impact fee at your June 25th city council meeting. So this will be given a lot more in detail. We'll have our Kimberly Horn person here at that time, and to represent and answer any questions. But that's when we'll finalize, or the council will finalize the impact fee. And, well, at least let me say this. It'll be the city meeting all the state requirements to implement an impact fee. If you have questions that you need additional information on that we don't have next time, we can extend it. But at least we'll meet the state requirements for this roadway impact fee. And now the community again has a copy of this plan that everyone received in your packet today. So it's not something that you hadn't seen or hadn't been discussed before. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Conrad, and I appreciate you having the handout from Kimberly Horn, because I know one day these things will not have feedback. There was concern that people wanted to see that. Now, this is only a discussion on this item, right? So there was no action to be taken. Okay, so we'll move on to 10.6. Discuss and consider approving a contract for communication software, TextMyGov, which has the ability to text all citizens within a specified area about city information. I'll send this over to Conrad, but to remind folks, this had actually been brought to council before by Conrad. And I think we saw with the storms and the dam that this could be a very beneficial thing. So I'm very interested in hearing what Conrad has to say on this presentation. So thank you for putting this back on there, Conrad.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you remember, and some of you have had the opportunity to meet with TextGov and be through a Teams type setting or a Zoom type setting, talk to them directly. This is a software, cloud software that we can utilize in an opting out situation and get as many residents as we can through that process that will receive text messages from the city. And those text messages, we would have to, as a city, develop a policy, I believe, to control that, how many texts go out and types of texts and things like that. There's lots of examples around that we can bring in boilerplate and create our own. But it's something that if there's a water break, if there's a natural disaster, if there's a man-made accident or disaster, we can draw a polygon around a certain area of the city and text every single resident within that area. So it doesn't have to go out the entire city. We will have access to do the entire city if we wanted to send something out as simple as remember to vote. Or we have our Easter extravaganza coming up this Saturday at these times. I mean, just a quick text. If residents want to opt out, they can opt out and not get those information from the city. But they also can just put delete on their phone real quick and it goes away as well. So this is something that for emergencies, but for overall city information and business, we have the ability to contact all our residents real quick. The ability for us to communicate with our residents as we find out, as we understand, is paramount. And sometimes, as the mayor was mentioning, very quickly we need to get a hold of our residents based on certain circumstances to give them some information that may be critical. So this is a software that is very affordable. You see how much it costs, and it's an ongoing in the cloud, so it's run through this TextMyGov. It's built for municipal governments, and so I think it meets some of our initial needs. It's like another tool in our toolbox to communicate with our residents. And yeah, with that, so we turn it back to the mayor and council, and if for your discussion or any questions you may have about this.
Thanks again, Conrad. Thanks. I think it showed very how important this really is with the storms, the encore outages, you know, just passing off information to people. And like Conrad said, I mean, we can narrow down when our own fire department goes out and there's a wreck at 205 and 550. We can alert you to let you know, don't go that way for traffic, because that may not be on the Rockwall County Office of Emergency Management one. So it gives us a quicker line, you know, for Dallas being here. Thank you, sir. I mean, we could have made sure he would have been a key person who could have got an alert versus a whole county. You know, a couple of other people are here from Chisholm Crossing, Gina and Tony. And so those things could have just gone to them if we'd have been able to do it. Probably could have controlled that a lot better. So I can tell you, I know I would love to see this for the city. Obviously, we would have to, you know, certain people would have control over it, not everybody, and we'd manage making sure that you're not just getting blown up with texts or anything like that. But it'll also hopefully cut down on me having to make videos on Facebook, as many of y'all may not even have Facebook. So it's just a way that we can get people a lot of the information that I'm a very big proponent on giving. I would love to hear Chief Brewer or Councilmember Brewer's input on this, from him being a chief of police at one time, knowing the importance of getting information out there. So with that being said, I'll start with our Mayor Pro Tem, Dan Tucker.
Yeah, I'm an extreme advocate on this one, especially having personal experience with the dam issue. We could have isolated this, according to Conrad, to a very small group of people in terms of a warning, an early warning, you know, whether it was over Chisholm Crossing on the north side or the south side, on particular addresses. So, you know, since I've lived here some 7 years, I thought California was bad with earthquakes and fires, but we've experienced extreme storms, tornadoes, extreme heat conditions, and then extreme freezing conditions. And I've lived all over the United States. I've never lived in an area where I've got such extreme weather events. So that what's that? Yeah. Well, you know, there are other things that compensate for the extreme weather, and it's actually entertaining for me. I love lightning storms. The freezes, it's like New England. I'm glad with that. I'm fine with that. But it's dams breaking. That I'm not used to yet. I have to adjust to that. And the heat doesn't bother me at all. But that being said, yeah, I'm an advocate of this, and we'll vote in favor of it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Brewer, as I called you chief a moment ago.
That's all right. No, I think this is great. I'm probably more familiar with Nixle, but that's more of a one-way conversation, whereas here we can get citizen a text right into our specific area, and we can address it quicker. So, no, this is great. Communication is always evolving. You know, we have the Facebook, not everybody's on Facebook. We have Instagram, not everybody's on Instagram. We have but most everybody has a phone, and most everybody has a phone that's capable of text. Even my father with the old button phone, but he'll get a text. He can text. So I think this is a great thing. I think it's for the safety. Public safety is the number one priority for this city, and so this is an excellent tool to accomplish that duty that we have for the city. So I'm all for it.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. Councilmember McLendon, do you have anything on this one? Nope. And Councilmember Easter.
Yeah, just to go along with what Dan was saying, this place is crazy. You forgot the alligators, water moccasins, copperheads, and all that other stuff in there. But what is the cost for something like this? And how long would it take to implement and to get it working?
Well, we have, to do the opt-out program, we have contact information for all of our city right now. I mean, probably it would be nice to get more specifics with, if we could get RCH to give them, I mean, all our residents the contact information. But we take that information and it can be downloaded within weeks. And the cost is the implementation cost is I believe it was $5,000 or $2,000, and then I have it in your packets, so I don't have that right in front of me, but it has an ongoing cost every year of $4,000. So thank you, Councilor McLendon.
I think it was closer to 6,000 to 6,000. I think it was close to 6,000 to implement, and then there was a yearly cost of about close to the 4,000 mark, if I'm going off of memory here. Okay, so if no one has anything else to add on that, I'll entertain a motion on item 10.6.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for communication software, text.gov. Yeah. Making sure.
Do I have a second? And we have a second. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And show that unanimous. Okay, we will move on to item 10.7. Okay, item 10.7, discussion and action defining the role of Water Committee and its members. Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Tucker.
On this, I think we're going to have a slide put up. And okay, so with the change of administration, I think that one of the important points that I was certainly in favor and have always advocated since I've been on council is more transparency than is necessary at times. And I know that the mayor is in favor of that as well. And so in that regard, I was appointed to the Water Committee, and Councilman Easter also came on board. In the past, I was also on, in the past administration, I was on Water Board, but really wasn't privy to a lot of what was being said and what was going on. So, and there was no real definition as to what the responsibilities of that board were. So I just wanted to edify for public consumption and transparency's sake, and to be responsible to the council, because we report to council. The Water Committee members report to council. And in the process of doing that, we'll include the mayor as well. But I just wanted to define, and I think we might want to carry this on to other committees as well, as to set up definitions as to responsibilities and authorities. So, there we go, we got it up there. So, these are some of the items that I came up with for discussion before we approve this. I suppose it's a resolution. Is it a resolution? Yeah. And so, I'm going to squint here. So, let's go ahead and define that. The scope of work for the Water Board will be receive all communications regarding water. I mean, we should have all communications coming in, whether it comes in through developers, Conrad, Mr. Holla, ASA, whatever source of a communication in regards to water should be received by the Water Board, so we have a complete purview of those discussions might involve. And number two is call meetings for purposes of gathering information replying to inquiries, discussing strategies, evaluating technologies relevant to water, etc. So we've already implemented that, and I've reported some of those factors to the mayor. But we should be able to, through the city administrator, extend ourselves and ask for certain meetings with individuals or parties that are part of the water conversation, if you will. And so far we've spoken to Blackland, we've spoken to some developers. We'll be speaking with David Naylor here in the near future, in about 2 weeks. We also want to speak to Mary Smith up in Rockwall and to High Point. And there are other individuals that we'll be speaking to as well. Basically, the Water Committee I see as a informational gathering entity, and with that information, we'll put it to purpose. So ask the mayor and city administrator in conjunction with one board member be allowed to respond to day-to-day efforts regarding water. There was, in a previous resolution that was passed by council, we basically, I think, took a lot of the authorities when it came to water decision-making away from the mayor. And so in the process of doing that, there was a discovery on my part that day-to-day decision-making couldn't occur. You know, we would have to wait and ask council every 2 weeks. Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And so I've tried to streamline the administration of the process, whether we're talking to the city, the water attorney, or want to look at some contracts, that kind of thing, to bring at least one member of the board in with the mayor and then with the city administrator, so we can make a collective decision on something that on the short order of things, we can come to an agreement and then facilitate any kind of movement. Ultimately, if it expanded out to something even more grandiose, then certainly we would need confirmation from council, and we would have further conversations with council on that. So just to facilitate the movement of the water conversation that we're having with so many entities. So those are some of the considerations. I'm sure there are more considerations that perhaps council has to address and proffer. So this is a start point for me. I think, again, it's all in terms of being transparent, both to council and to the public.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem Tucker. You brought up the transition and, you know, the new mayor and the new council members coming on. I do want to ask something on the record. Was there any of the maps, any documents or anything turned over to us from the outgoing so that we could see where we're leaving off at?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're efforting all the information and maps and everything. I showed Mayor Pro Tem one big map that we had of a CCN, but we're efforting. I mean, right offhand, we don't have anything, so we'll be seeking that.
I believe that map was from 1987. I looked on the back side of it and had an inscription of that as a date, so I don't think that's going to qualify.
Well,
I appreciate you offering it to me, though.
Well, I don't think the CCN has changed. So it's what they originally were offered as a CCN. So even though it's an older map, it's what was granted by the state for them.
I think we had some other maps that might have been given to, that had to been drawn up, because I do recall one when we had a meeting from whoever the TPN, I believe it was who it was. But I think the point I'm definitely trying to make, and especially if the Mayor Pro Tem is taking over something and he's going to have the lead on it and his name's going to be attached to it, it is paramount that he has all the knowledge that was before him, so that he can make these right decisions when he's in front of the different water committees, or water members, whether it's developers or water companies. I mean, he's already met with some. I know Councilmember Easter's involved. Mayor Pro Tem Tucker has reached out to me to set up something with Mr. Naylor, which we've got in the books. And this is what it's all about. It's opening up line of communication, and to have line of communication, the Mayor Pro Tem is going to have to go into these conversations with everything that was before him. And right now, it doesn't sound like everything was left to the city. And if that was the case, we need to be getting our hands on that. It needs to be turned back over to the city. I believe that would be city property. I don't know if I'm correct in saying that, Mr. Holla, but would that be city property? Then we need to get that back. Do you have anything else, Mr. Dan Tucker? Oh, Councilmember Brewer.
No, I'll just say I like the format of this, and I think I look forward to finding out what you find out, and I feel confident that we'll all know what you find out. So,
I feel like it's, when I was appointed, that it's became my responsibility and my co-partner on this, that it's our responsibility to make all information available to council. Whether I'm biased in one way or not, you all deserve to have the same information we have in hand.
I love that answer. Councilmember McLendon, do you have anything on this? And Councilmember Easter, do you have anything, sir?
Not really, just to echo what Dan says, and we're trying to get information so that we can identify possible options going forward, bring it back to the council, let folks know what's going on. And there may not be a one size that fits all, so we'll see how it goes.
Love that word picture too. Man, we are gelling up here. So with that, this has discussion and action defining the role. I'm good with this role. So if there's other questions, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the defining role of the Water Committee as it's been stated.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 And show that one unanimous as well. That will take us to item 10.8, discuss and consider approving the creation of a town hall committee. This one falls on me. One of the things that we discussed, at least in my campaigning, is town halls. And this was honestly spearheaded at the time of Councilmember Brewer as a candidate to point out in our comprehensive plan that we were supposed to have 2 a year. We had 1 in 3 years. Councilmember Brewer is really wanting to spearhead this, and this all falls back on transparency and making sure that the people are informed, which I believe transparency creates trust. And when you have trust, you start having no division because everyone knows what's going on. And I love Councilmember Brewer's passion on this one because he wants 1 a quarter. And so when he said that to me, I said, I'm on board. And I've already tasked him with making sure he gets the first one set up in July so that the clock's ticking on him. And the first one will be Home Rule 101. And that's where we'll, open this floor up for the citizens. So with that being said, I would love an approval to create a town hall committee. And I would look for a motion to approve item 10.8.
I'll make a motion for the creation of a town hall committee.
Second.
And with the second, do I have any further discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. We'll go to 10.9, discuss and consider approving the appointment of council members Jerry Brewer and Councilmember Paul Day to the Town Hall Committee. With that being said, before I ask Councilmember Brewer officially, Councilmember Day is out of town in Arkansas. He saw the agenda items. We had already spoke over the agenda items, and he sent an email to myself, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, and our City Administrator Conrad, basically accepting any of the nominations. So we have his blessings. So with that being said, going into 10.9, we already have a yay from Paul Day. That rhymed. Jerry Brewer, would you like to accept the nomination on this one?
Absolutely.
It's a good thing since you're heading it up. So with that being said, I would look for an approval on item 10.9 of the agenda, or a motion rather.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of council members Jerry Brewer and Paul Day to the Town Hall Committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? With no further discussion, I'll take a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Show that unanimous. We'll go to item 10.11. Discuss and consider approving the appointment of Mayor Brian McNeil, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, and Councilmember Paul Day to the Development Committee. Now, before I go into great detail on this, I apologize, I do have to get on my phone because I know we have an ordinance not to be on our phones, but I have to look something up to explain one thing. If I can, eventually going to have to get readers here. Oh, I apologize. We've passed 10.10. That's why I need readers. Thank you, Councilmember McLendon. 10.10, discuss and consider the approval or approving the creation of the Development Committee. Still a good thing I was looking this up because it still needs to be said. I would like to reword this, and I need to find out if I can do that in the motion from our city attorney. I think it would be better to be read as a Growth and Strategies Committee instead of the Development Committee. I believe that gives it a broader context than just development, and it could include community-inspired initiatives such as recreation and leisure. So I wanted to make sure that I tried to define it where it shows exactly what the goal is for that. So if that is something, if this is approved, when that motion is made, is that something we can reword? Even though I have it written as Development Committee, can I have that motion amended to say Growth and Strategies Committee?
You can discuss in the motion is what you want to call it. I mean, it's the creation of a development committee, not the development committee. I understand that the D in development is capitalized, but the C in committee is not, so it doesn't look like a full formal name or anything like that, and it says a development committee. Like I said, not the development committee. So I think if you want to call a development committee that you create XYZ, I think you make a motion, if somebody wants to, make a motion to approve the creation of whatever it was that you just said that I can't say as eloquently, so I'll let you do that.
Growth Strategies Committee. The reason I want to word it that way as well, and of course, we have to get through this one to get to the next one, so I'll hold the part two to see if this gets a pass. So I would look for a motion to approve item 10.10.
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of a development committee. How did you state it?
Growth Strategies Committee.
Growth Strategies Committee.
Don't say gross.
Did I say gross? Yeah, my speech impediment showing itself. Growth Strategies Committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I had a little, I wanted to elevate this a bit. My understanding with the development committee was that it would encompass residential and business development. And so that at any point in time where we had conversations with developers in particular or businesses coming into town, that we would have select individuals that would be on the committee attending those various meetings. And so growth strategies encompasses, I don't want to step on that one again, would encompass that. Am I correct? So that I want that to be part of the understanding that business and residential are part of that conversation.
Absolutely, and I think that's why I changed it from development committee to encompass a little bit extra. One of the things that I needed to ask Mr. Hollow when we get to the next one, if this is approved, is, we would have, if this is approved, we'd have a couple of members already assigned to it, but I would like to open it up to possibly a P&Z individual to be on there as well, because I think that could help us streamline some conversations a little bit quicker, allow us to move along. I also would love to have Conrad on that, but I'm not opposed to having one or two citizens on that as well. Maybe that's something we could talk about, but, to kick off the committee, I guess we have to approve the committee first to get to the next part anyways, but, I don't want to cross these things because I know I'm not supposed to be doing that.
As far as having citizens, I'm not in opposition to that, but there might be some restrictions, and I'd ask Mr. Holla on that issue. When developers initially come in and we're speaking to them, and you have a citizen on board listening to those conversations, which, they're not constricted, I think, by the limitations that we on city council may have in terms of putting information out there. I may be wrong, maybe right, I don't know how.
No, that's actually a good point. That might have been a good initiative and bad judgment on my part, but that's just how I think sometimes.
So, all right, this goes back to, and I'm calm, not going to be upset tonight, we're good, my known opinion of developers, okay? So, yes, we all know that I only have one rule, and one rule only dealing with developers. Now, my caution on these, whether it's the water board or whatever committee it is, and this goes back to rule number one, and the only rule is, if you have a bunch of people speaking from the water committee, for example, and they're meeting with a developer, you will hear at some point, well, the water committee approved it, the water committee said it was okay. My advice, this is just my opinion, y'all do whatever you want with it. You have one person, when you're in these meetings, one person speaks for the committee. Whether that's Conrad or the mayor or you, it's one person. So everything flows through. Now the committee has gotten together and they talk with that person. This is what I want to ask. Send them notes while we're talking. They ask questions, but it all flows through one mouthpiece. So, and what I want to do is the boards and committees, the council does have authority, I think, I don't know, I'm going off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere around 1.06 of our Code of Ordinances, just talks about general boards and committees and commissions. So the council does have authority to create these. Now, they're an extension of the council. So they're legislative. That's what they're there for. Make laws, set policy. That's what legislators do. They're helping with the policy here. The individuals like Conrad and Asa, it's their role as a matter of law to effectuate, carry out, execute. They're called the executive branch. They carry out and implement the administrative, day-to-day will of the council and these committees. So I think the safest bet is to let one mouth, one person for the committee. It's most appropriate to be the mayor or be Conrad. It doesn't necessarily have to be. But one mouthpiece for these committees when they meet with the developers, and everything flows through that. So the developer will never be able to say, well, the committee approved of it. Well, who did you hear? Well, I just heard from the mayor, or I just heard from Conrad, or I just heard from Mayor Pro Tem, whatever. I think that's the safest route. It keeps everybody kind of sort of in their lane, so to speak. It protects against developers saying this or saying that, or heard this or heard that. And it still lets the committee come to a whole, as a whole, come together and get the information they want, make the points that they want to make, and ask the questions that they want to ask. So that's just my opinion.
That's certainly something we can make sure, no matter what committee, that committee would need to pick the one person that speaks. And to that end, I think I would definitely say you keep it simple, stupid type thing, where we keep the citizens out of it. Not that I'm calling citizens stupid here. I'm just saying it's just I want to make sure that we don't have the wrong people saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. We need to ask the right question at the right time to get the right answer. So, maybe we do keep it how I'm setting it up in the next agenda item, if this one's even approved. Is there any other discussion on, or does that answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem?
And I think you make a good point too. Deciding if you're going to create something, or a committee or commission or a board, would be the first step. Okay, let's do that. I think your second step, like you've got the appointment, then you talk about, okay, we're going to appoint these 3 people, but we're also going to have 5 total spots. We're going to have 1 from the P&Z, and we're going to have 1 open citizen, if we can, or whatever. So I think things like that do need to be defined, and when those committees meet, then they can decide, okay, we're going to adopt our own, this is how we're going to have our rules of decorum for our committee when we meet, what times, what days, things like that. I think we've got the basic rules in our code of ordinances on boards and commissions, and then you all, as the council, would decide how many actual individuals would be on the board or commission, and then what the makeup of that would look like.
All right, so is there any other further discussion on this one? If there's no further discussion.
Wait, hold on. I got a couple quick questions. I mean, by having citizens on some of these boards, does that create any potential liability or other concerns for the city if they're getting information that might be otherwise viewed as confidential or privileged, or something along those lines that might be different? Do different rules of ethics and I guess maintaining confidence is applied to the city council members that might not otherwise apply to a citizen in that role?
Well, we had citizens when you have the comprehensive plan. There was a committee put together, and there were citizens on that. So I think in some of the regards, there are definitely some committees that I do believe don't put us probably in that lane of probably some legalities that we would have to worry about. I would agree that you probably wouldn't want a citizen on the water committee per se, but when we're talking about some other things, especially possible home rule, I mean, home rule actually has to have 15 people on it. So we're going to have to reach out to citizens. So I think definitely to your point, there will probably be some items that citizens can be on, or some committees, and then some not on. And I think with this one, probably, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, being that we would be dealing with developers, probably not a good idea for citizens on this particular one, but maybe on another one.
Yeah, I wasn't advocating against it. I just want to make sure that we don't step in something that we're not aware of.
Well, and just to give you a couple quick heads up on that, is that everything is presumed to be open anyway. So there wouldn't be, now, if you wanted to meet, obviously, in executive session, let's say we need legal advice on something, that's different. And in that committee, you could do that as well. If that committee needed legal advice, I think they'd have to post their meetings. Purely advisory committees don't technically have to conform to the Open Meetings Act. I think it is unbelievably a poor decision not to have all your boards and commissions, committees, and everything go by TOMA. I think that's the safest route, unequivocally. So if you're doing that, then they can meet. That is an advantage. They can meet, get legal advice, and that would be confined to just that board, commission, or committee. So, and we did mention home rule, and of course, this is a great question for the ethics committee. Do we have one of those? Okay. Oh, by the way, we don't have to have 15 minutes. We'll get to that, though.
Good news. Okay. So if there's no other further discussion, I will entertain a motion. I have lost my place. 10.10 to So we've already had the motion in a second. So all in favor say aye.
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 So that unanimous. And then we will move on to item 10.11, this time in order. Discuss and consider approving the appointment of Mayor Brian McNeil, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, and Councilmember Paul Day to the Growth Strategies Committee. We've already pretty much talked about this through the previous item, but and I would also like to possibly leave that open for a spot if the council would want to maybe look at putting a P&Z member on there. I think it could be beneficial to us. So with that being said, maybe a spot for P&Z and a spot for staff on that particular committee. So at this point, if everyone is good with that, then I'll entertain a motion to accept item 10.11 with the amendment of leaving a spot open for P&Z and a staff member from McLendon-Chisholm staff.
I'll make a motion to approve appointments of to the Growth Strategies Committee of Mayor Brian McNeil, myself, Dan Tucker, Paul Day, and with amendments for assignment of P&Z member and staff.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
With the second, is there any further discussion? Okay, with no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 And all opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, with that, motion carries 3-1. Item 10.12 is discuss and consider approving the creation of a citizens cabinet. As you'll see, there's nothing following much on this, except for the fact that I think that it's very paramount to have citizen involvement. One of the things with the cabinet that I learned in talking with many of the community during the storm and the dam and so on, everyone has some special skills that they can bring to the plate. One of the things that I had found is, one of the things I found out is the mayor, you become the director of public safety, and I didn't know that one. So I learned that one. I also didn't know in our fire department, we actually have an EOC office. The reason I bring this up is because, as you saw on consent agenda, Councilmember Jerry Brewer just became our liaison with the Office of Emergency Management. Congratulations, by the way. So he would be at the county EOC office with possibly Judge Russo, other commissioners, and the county judge, and so on, where they are running the stuff for the county. With us having an EOC office here, I would hope that Mayor Pro Tem and another council member, and if we have citizens that possibly work for Encore, possibly work for a water company, not necessarily RCH or but just have some knowledge for us, right? What it does is it opens us up to be able to reach out to the citizens and say, hey, we want to form a cabinet of, let's say, 6 people, and with that being said, apply for it. Let us look at your skill set. And maybe I'm thinking too far in advance on this, but my gosh, it would have been nice to have a few more extra people the last few weeks for me. If it wasn't for some of the council members and Mayor Pro Tem Tucker, I'm telling you, I'd have pulled my hair out. So with that said, it's just, I think we have so much, let me back it up. During this time, I think everybody would agree, the community came together. I mean, I could text Gina 1,000 times a day and she'd be like, I'm on it. I could reach out to Tony Crawford, I'm on it. I could call Judge Russo, I'm on it. So we could call anybody and they were rising up. It seems like we had a cabinet, then we have that that nucleus of who is just, instead of me trying to call 12 people, I'm only calling one or one section. And then that allows the fire department and me to be kind of out checking on things. You know, I think Mayor Pro Tem brought this up a minute ago with weather and all these different things. I keep hearing that we have these 1 in 100 year storms. Well, I've been in Rockwall 6 years and I've lived through about 5 of them. So it's, again, this is really kind of just a discussion. I know it says consider approving. I would really love to hear the feedback from the council on it, because maybe I am thinking too far ahead, but I'll stop there and just start with Mayor Pro Tem.
I think you're talking about drawing in a larger volume of resources to advise the city on whatever issue it might be. So I always welcome more information. It's information gathering again. And, you know, how can we make decisions without gathering as much information as possible to make good decisions? So making decisions in the dark really doesn't satisfy. So this is part of this process. So I'm good with it.
I love that information gathering. I didn't even think of that. That's actually right on the money. Councilmember Brewer.
No, I think this is a good idea. Were you thinking of one from each neighborhood or HOA, or what were you thinking on that?
You know, that's actually probably exactly the way I was thinking of. To really make it work, it would take at least one member from each HOA. In all honesty, if we're meeting, let's just say once every 8 weeks, so we're not trying to take people's lives away, you know. But what I think that does is, if every HOA has a representative there, it almost is bridging us, you know, because yeah, everyone knows everybody in Sonoma Verde. I have found unequivocally true, everybody knows everybody in Chisholm Crossing. And the same to be said for Glen Acres, Austin Corners, where you're at. So if you have all these communities who they all know one another in their community, wouldn't it be awesome if McLendon-Chisholm really knows everybody? And so then what happens is, when we have the extravaganzas or the things up here, you really, truly 100% know your neighbor. And it goes back to Judge New. It's just being a good neighbor. So absolutely, it'd be a representative from each HOA.
I think that's the way to go, because each HOA has their own unique problems, and sometimes hearing what other HOAs are going through may give them some information as to how they can approach the problem that maybe they thought they were the only ones dealing with. So that's good.
Almost wish I had a whiteboard to brainstorm these ideas. It's awesome up here. Councilmember McLendon, do you have anything on this one?
What we're referring to is creating a culture for the neighborhood, for family, which we can do that as leaders as we are doing now. I don't think that a cabinet is required to do it.
Councilmember Easter.
I think that particularly this last couple of weeks, with all of the rain, the emergency and the concerns and the anxiety that dam erosion created, I think it's helpful to have those connections. I agree with Floyd that it doesn't have to be conducted with the city. However, I think that by having some folks in the city kind of coordinating this, I think is very helpful. And, you know, as far as the different HOAs and everything, I think that Jerry's point is that dealing with issues from one HOA to another, I think lessons learned may be helpful. And just, you know, just trying to deal with some of these things that you don't even, who would have thought 3 weeks ago that you have to worry about the dam breaking and washing across 550 and 205? And I just think having people involved with things, it gives you ownership, and they don't have to do it if they don't want to, but I think it gives the community a little bit more cohesiveness, all in all. So I think overall it's a good measure, but I don't know that it's required that the city, take ownership of it, but I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll add something, because what I may do with this, I will ask for a motion to approve item 10.12. Actually, I'll do that first, because this would go into 10.13, and I don't want to cross them. So with 10.12, I will look for a motion for an approval on that one.
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of a citizens cabinet.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion with the second? If there's no further discussion, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And all opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries with 3-1. Let me ask you this, Mr. Hall, on item 10.13, to discuss and consider approving the appointment of Mayor Brian McNeil, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, P&Z Committee Chairman Mark Kippett, City Administrator Conrad Hildebrand to the Citizens Cabinet. Can I either push this to the next council meeting? Because what I think I'd like to do is find out exactly how many HOAs we have so that we can get in contact with them before we start assigning positions, because I think, to me, it'd be easier to already have some idea of a contact, and maybe at the first start of it's the HOA presidents. And maybe it might take us into, June 11th, so it might even be the first meeting in July, so that we can gather this information. Of course, if the council's okay with me having an extra 30 days to put this together, because I think if we're going to put together something with the citizens, I just want to make sure that we do it the right way, and it gives us time to discuss it maybe on the side. So with 10.13, can I have that just pulled right now, if the council's okay with that, and if that's something I'm allowed to do?
The general rule is if it's on the agenda, you can do it in any order. If it's not on the agenda, you can't do it, and I think the general rule applies here. So if you want to not do it, skip over it, you're absolutely free to do that.
Council, if y'all are okay with that, I would just like to move past 10.13 to make sure we get that in order before we put it back on here, so we give the citizens the right information as well as us knowing the right information. Are y'all okay with that? Good. Councilmember McLendon, good? Cool. All right, so then that will take us to item 10.14, discuss and consider approving the creation of an ethics committee, including but not limited to the roles and responsibilities, the number of members, and its purpose. Okay, so this one's on me. The reason I want to form an ethics committee is because us as elected officials, we answer to you. And what I have felt has happened in the 2 years that I was a council member, and we really didn't answer to anybody. We kind of answered to ourselves, and I'm just being honest. At least that's how I felt. I don't want to say that's maybe what was done, it's just how I felt. In the few weeks that I've been mayor, I have been able to have knowledge of things that I felt, my gosh, the people are owed answers. And so for that, I felt very strong about forming an ethics committee, because that also holds myself accountable to you as well, as we all should be accountable. So with that, I will open it up if anyone has any questions on this as to why or where we're at. But we'll open up that if anyone has any questions on item 10.14.
Yeah, my question would be to Mr. Holla, and wondering if, because this is an important committee, I think that we should have, is there anything in Texas code that already establishes any kind of definition as to what, in this case, what the purpose might be, what the responsibilities are, what authorizations this type of committee might have? Is there anything in code at all? So it's going to be self-declared. In other words, we're going to formulate one that we define ourselves.
Correct. It's actually, of all the committees, one of the most common to have
Okay.
for cities is an ethics committee, ethics commission. And so, I mean, if you look at the way they define what its purpose and goal is, I mean, 99% match from all the cities, but yes, technically you're free as the creator of the committee or the commission to set its guidelines, rules, that type of thing.
Councilmember Brewer, do you have anything? Councilmember McLendon, do you have anything on this one?
So I think it's disingenuous and disrespectful to insinuate that council members before you were governing for their own gain, especially when they're not here to defend themselves. So, and speaking for myself, I feel that those who were on the council before and now had the right mindset of serving the city and serving the constituents. I don't agree with necessarily us having, once again, an ethics committee, like a mandatory ethics committee. It's incumbent upon us to hold each other respectfully accountable. That's where the ethics come from.
I appreciate your input. I apologize if I felt like I insinuated some people. It is an open meeting. It was posted and they could have been here. Councilmember Easter, do you have anything on this? Okay, with that, I'll accept a motion to consider item 10.14 approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of an ethics committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion after that second? All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. This will take us to item 10.15, discuss and consider approving the appointment of Mayor Brian McNeil, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, and Councilmember Paul Day to the Ethics Committee. I feel only, being the mayor, that I should be a part of this. The checks and balance would be the Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker is on this. And as discussed earlier with an email by Councilmember Paul Day, he is on it. I have come to know these gentlemen quite well in the last few weeks, and their integrity is beyond reproach. I think Councilmember Tucker, or I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Tucker alluded to this a moment ago, that no matter his biased opinions with water, he said he will present all information. That is a huge statement on someone's character. And so I am very proud to know that I made the right decision in wanting to appoint him. So we already know that Councilmember Paul Day would accept this. Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, would you accept that if this is passed to be on this committee? And I know I do as well. So with that, I'll accept a motion to approve the members to this Ethics Committee on item 10.15.
I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Mayor Brian McNeil, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker, and Councilmember Paul Day to the Ethics Committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion on this item? If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. The last item up is item 10.16, discuss and consider approving the creation of a home rule committee. This is very important now that we've already crossed the threshold in our population. Home rule would give us a little more governance as far as controlling some of the ordinances, which could possibly help us with the developers that come in, whether it's residential or commercial, I believe. So I would like to hear what our city attorney had on the good news with the home rule committee.
Well, it's not all good news. So I think we're a little speedy on this particular agenda item. And what I mean by that is, and I talked to Angela about this. I don't know if she talked to you about it or not, but we need to adopt a resolution. Most cities use NCT-COG, North Texas Council of Governments. We have to have a resolution somehow showing, hey, we're adopting something that shows that we're over 5,000, or at least 5,000. So you need something. Like I said, most cities use the census or the population, I guess it's a population estimate that NCT-COG has. So it's not difficult to get. I think I've even, or at least, I can't remember, I think I might have even sent Angela a resolution that would say, hey, look, we adopted and just left the blanks. Because it doesn't have to be NCT-COG, but that's a pretty typical general normal one to do. Okay, so that's the one thing about jumping a little bit. Second is, now here's the good news, is it doesn't have to be 15 people for us. Okay, you want to have a decent number of people on there, and this is where you do want citizens. So 9.02, I believe. I was a little off earlier. I took a guess and said 1.06 on our boards and commissions. Conrad pointed out as 1.03, so I apologize for that. But 9.02 local government code talks about the formation of the charter commission. It's actually called by statute a charter commission. And so the unique thing, if I remember right, subsection D lists 3 ways that you can form the charter commission. 1 is by city council, 2 is the mayor can appoint, or 3, it just says at a mass meeting. And Mr. Easter can share with me, you know, sometimes as much as we love the law, it doesn't always make sense. It seems like it would logically follow that the council would do that at a mass meeting, but I don't know if that's some sort of organized chaos or something, but it's actually 3 separate things. The mayor, the city council, or at a mass meeting. I've never done it the mass meeting way. That just sounds a little too scary to me. But it's there, it's in the statute. And the reason it doesn't have to be 15 people, if I also remember correctly, that subsection D says subsections A, B, and C don't apply if it's the city's first attempt, first time doing the home rule charter process. I guess I should check. I don't think that we've done that before in the past. I believe Ms. Stibbins is a human history of McLendon-Chisholm, so she may be able to let me know. There we go. We've checked the official history. So A, B, and C of those subsections in 9.02 don't apply to us. So we can choose. What I would strongly recommend is at least directing staff, AKA Conrad, to talk to a consultant about walking through the process, because it is very technical. And Councilmember Day, when he asked me about it, I sent him an email back response and just kind of gave him a whole overview of the process, and he appreciated it. He said he didn't have enough books to read, and I gave him another one. But that gives you an idea of how detailed and lengthy the process is. This is a good, I would estimate a good 10-month process to reach it. And so I would think at least looking into maybe consultants, because I've worked with a couple of different cities who have used consultants in the past, and it is kind of nice to have people that are just dedicated to that. At least having Conrad look into them and maybe vetting a few and seeing what they would charge, where they come under the 252.022 threshold of being less than $50,000, what we would have to choose, to do it, that type of thing. So I think that would at least just be good due diligence if we decide, hey, you know what, that's too involved, costs too much money, not going to do it that way. At least we've vetted that out, and at least we've looked at that. So I think that would definitely be an option for us. So just to sum all that up.
Okay, so this one almost might fall into what we did with item 10.13, maybe 10.16. if council is okay with it, maybe we direct staff, AKA Conrad, to see what we can find out on, a little more input on this so that we can bring this back to council. Because it's certainly something we need to look at and possibly pursue. And I will ask Councilmember Brewer if he can get with you, Conrad, on this as well, so that he can understand, because I still think it's okay for us to look at this as a hometown or a town hall meeting in July still, so that way the public already kind of knows, and I would think that we might have some input by then as well, but then we can start to get input from the citizens too, because we want them to be a part of that process. So I think maybe just that way we'd be okay if maybe push this one again.
Absolutely. You can have town hall meetings anytime you want about anything. There's really no restrictions on that. Absolutely have especially for our community. Absolutely. I would also direct staff to look into basis for a population estimate, so they will make sure we're at you can have something in the resolution, whatever it is, we adopt it by the resolution, and that's, hey, you know what, now we've got some data, this is what we're pointing to say that we're over 5,000, to do that, because you're right about home rules. The general rule for home rules general law is the home rule cities can do whatever they want to unless the Constitution says, no, you can't. General law cities can't do anything unless the law specifically says they can do it. Now, they can do corollaries from that, like the law specifically says we can create a police department or a fire department or whatever. It doesn't say anything about hiring officers or firefighters, buying equipment, but that's a normal, natural corollary of that. And the good news on that, too, is a couple of years ago, I think it was House Bill 2138, I can't remember, but as we all know, we've all heard me say that the state is trying to do away with cities, and I'm sorry, but if you don't think they are, you're completely ignorant and you're an ostrich with your head in the sand, because the state doesn't like cities. But I thought I was right and I was wrong. The state is trying to do that. I thought they would do it by getting rid of the smaller cities. Okay? But maybe they learned a lesson from Alexander the Great, who had too much territory to control and couldn't do it. Well, what they tried to do, they tried to make the bigger cities general law cities. They took away all their power and made them completely dependent on the state. And Houston and a couple other cities, big cities, got together. So what they tried to do is attack the big cities, make them small. They said, wait a second. You as a legislature don't have authority to do that. The voters, if they want to vote on it, they can vote to change the Texas Constitution and make home rule cities like general law cities. Well, a liberal haven, that's not a secret or anything like that, Austin, Texas, trial court judge found in favor of the home rule cities and struck down the House bill. So what we're talking about has some real effect and real bite to it about being a home rule city. So that's another reason why I want to have input from possibly consultants to just make sure we do everything step by step correctly, so no one can attack any of the pieces of the pyramid as we go up to the top.
Yeah, I think it's prudent then that we just go ahead and have staff be directed to do that. Councilmember Brewer has agreed that he would be in lockstep with Conrad on that. And then maybe we look at bringing this one back in July as well to talk about. So with that being said, I will just...
And we can do the resolution with the population estimate anytime.
Yeah.
As soon as he decides what he wants to, we got to have that, and that's going to be the first step. So there's no reason not to do that ASAP.
Yeah, so then with that being said, if council's okay, I'm just going to pass through 10.16 as well so we can get some further information to bring back. Very good. All right. Man, we are almost out of here. My goal was by 9, and I might achieve it. I got 7 minutes. Council member reports and announcements. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Dan Tucker.
I really don't have much other than school is obviously out. The kids are out and about, and watching out for the kids in our community. They love to drive around their bikes or whatever, and dogs. A lot of dogs out, so gotta get there. So anyway, yeah.
Councilmember Brewer, do you have anything?
I just want to say I had the pleasure of working with Carry the Load right before Memorial Day. They had their big event in Dallas, so we were helping with kind of the security and the Overwatch stuff that was going on there. And then when we had the natural disasters around here, really wanted to appreciate Dennis London. Him and I and a couple other neighbors were out with chainsaws, just chopping up trees and stuff. But he was the first one to say, "Hey, let's go do this." So shout out to him. Thanks.
I saw a picture of you three. It was quite scary. Texas Chainsaw Massacre in real life. Councilmember McLendon, do you have anything, sir? Councilmember Easter.
Yeah, briefly, I just want to thank Asa and Conrad for being here this weekend when we did a little bit of work on the budget and so forth. So thanks for sacrificing your Saturdays to help us.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the lunch and the extra sandwich I got to take home. What I wanted to say is, again, thank you to the staff. Y'all have been doing a lot lately, especially Conrad staying on with CWD to help push this through. The council, again, voted unanimously to make sure we absorb that cost on the citizens. You know, when you look out at the people that we were able to help, Jerry in his neighborhood, Dan and Day and Easter, and just everyone all around trying to look at things, there's a lot of devastation, and if we could take just something off of the people, I think that was the right thing to do. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that on today's 6/11, on 6/13, ironically enough, is going to be Robin Mayall Day from RCH. And our past Mayor Pro Tem, Adrian Baucom, declared that day for him. So if he's watching, congratulations on your day coming up, sir. And lastly, on a lot of the seats out there was the Rockwall County Strategic Plan. If you have not done this, just take your phone, scan the QR code. It's just a few questions. Rich Dean is on this committee with me, as well as Paul Day and Asa. And it is to really bring 7 cities together to protect our county. So if you haven't done that, please take a moment to do that. And with that said, it is 8:57, and this meeting is adjourned.